What is going on, everybody? Bobby Fye and Eric Sheethaber. We're going to be talking through this large NBA slate. Look, I didn't do much in football last night. It wasn't. I had some of the right things, but man, you needed like 7 million points to win that thing, and it was the third string tight end for the Bengals that was optimal, not the first or the second like we were. I guess most people were hoping for. How did you do, Sheets? And then we'll jump into the slate.
I cashed in the biggest buy in there, but I didn't do anything in the lottery. Basketball was not great. Hockey was not great. So overall, just not great. But ready to get after this very, very big slate. And we'll be here at 6 to go through probably all the changes that are going to happen between now and then.
Yeah, and I'm just going to throw us a couple things out there, and I don't want to discourage anybody from NBA DFS or anything. I think it actually is much easier if you start learning how to use the SaberSim, and whether it's through SaberSim, whether it's through TrueDFS/SaberSim. But it's a lot of work, and Petty Theft, who is one of the best players, probably the best NBA player throughout the course of basically the history of DFS. He just retired from DFS, and they said that he just couldn't deal with the 70-hour weeks. He was doing everything he could to get different, and it just got to be too much for him. So it's a grind. But I'm telling you, if you use these tools, it is a much, much easier path. At least it takes up less of the time. Yeah, sure, you got to check every half hour. You have to go do all those things. But at least the tool makes it a lot easier. And I would suggest everybody familiarize yourself. And if you are a site member, let me know and we can help walk you through some things because I'm getting more comfortable with it myself at the moment. Anyway, just wanted to start with that, and then we'll pull up Sheets' screen and go game by game here.
Yep. Echo that I was going to bring that up also with Petty Theft. It's very, very difficult to put in the time really needed to play NBA the way it needs to be played. That's the best way I can describe it. When I play NBA, I admittedly play it at, 30% capacity, right. And as long as listen, the first step is admitting it, you know what I mean? For me, it's not worth it putting in the 100% effort, right. Even though that's probably the best way to play. It's just too hard. But if you do have it in you to be able to update with, throughout the night with all the changes and be really, really good with the technology. Listen, put it another way. If Petty Theft is over it, you know what I mean? Like then it's
more for us.
Yeah, more for us. But all right, you want to just get flying?
Yeah, let's jump into it. And I'm going to wishy-washy whether I'm going to play or not some of these days because it's just if I have family things at night, it does feel like I'm sort of giving things away, and I can't afford to give things away right now. So I'm debating even whether or not I'm going to end up playing tonight because I don't know if I'll be around for late swap stuff, but we'll see. I'm going to do my best. All right. Anyway, first game, Indiana-Charlotte, right?
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to throw out who I think looks like good plays and then also who I'm actually getting because I did run some sims or whatever. So if I'm just looking at the overall values here, I would say I would expect to get, a bunch of TJ McConnell, a bunch of Benedict Mathurin from Indiana, and then a bunch of Grant Williams, I guess, from Charlotte, when you're just looking at point per dollar stuff. And then when I actually run everything, I'm getting those guys, but I'm also getting somebody else. So right now, if I ran my sims and let's just say the slate's locked now, I'd be getting like 30% McConnell, as I kind of mentioned, 33% Mathurin, but God knows why, but I'd be getting 70% Miles Turner. So I will throw that hypothetical out there to you. Who did I miss? What do you like and overall thoughts?
Yeah, the Turner thing feels too high for a player with a range of outcomes, but it is like the nut matchup as it's been for basically the last 10 years against Charlotte, just in general. Maybe not quite as much because Taj Gibson's there, I guess, is what we're supposed to think. I don't know. I have a lot of I like Mathurin probably the best of anybody in this game. I do think that Halliburton is going to be lower owned than he's projected, whatever that is. And to talk about a wide range of outcomes, he's had some absolute awful games this year, but he's getting at that price where maybe it's worth it to gamble in this kind of a matchup. And on the other side, look, LaMelo against the Pacers, forget the price. You have to just close your eyes. And I know there's a lot of games, but there is a guy who could put up 70 in this matchup. It's a great matchup. So I feel like you could definitely talk me into stacking it. If McConnell's out, because he's questionable, I think that anything that opens up, I would love to jump on. But the players, mostly outside of and even Halliburton's appropriately priced because of the range of outcomes, but it's like every other day he's going to put up 55 here. I don't know. I feel like we're supposed to be paying more attention than the field is. It's a game that I would just recommend maybe being over the field at the moment, and only because we have a lot to talk about. There's just so many other good spots, but that's a really good one. Atlanta, Detroit, right?
Yeah, Atlanta, Detroit. Again, I'm getting another. If I was just looking at my projections, I would imagine that Isaiah Stewart would look like a good value here at 4,300. Tobias Harris, 5,900 looks kind of okay. Atlanta side, nothing particularly great. And then when I look at the actual stuff I'd be actually getting, be getting 27% Harris. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much it from this game. So we're just going to have to see how things turn out later. But I would have expected, again, it was weird. I was expecting to see more Isaiah Stewart. But then again, we got other centers to talk about.
Yeah.
But I don't know. What do you like in this game?
Well, I mean, as we go through this, it's just very apparent, and we're only in game 2, that it's going to be an extremely high-scoring slate, no matter what happens. You have the nut matchup for Detroit here. Isaiah Stewart, I actually thought he'd be projected around 30 fantasy points today, and he's 26.7, but I think 30 is a reasonable number for him at 4,300, and I think that makes him a terrific play. Like you said, there's other centers to talk about later. Love Jaden Ivey. I would try to get at least one of Ivey or Cunningham. The problem is neither of them are necessarily the greatest shooters. Cunningham's more the shooter better shooter than Ivey is, but this is the team that gives up the most threes in the NBA in Atlanta, and I think we have to even consider guys like Tim Hardaway Jr. I really think, if you told me this on different slates, I would say, okay, I would make sure to get at least a couple guys from the Indiana-Charlotte game and at least 2 from Detroit. There's too many games on this slate to maybe say that, but this is the nut matchup, and I would like to be overweight the Detroit guys is the best way I can put it from a morning perspective, because I have a ton of interest in Hardaway, which is I would never normally have at ownership, but you're playing a bunch of minutes against a team that literally is the worst at what you do best. So Hardaway, Harris, Stewart are the obvious ones. I like the both Ivey and Cunningham. I would probably set a rule to max maybe 3 of these guys, but I certainly am interested in at least 2 from Detroit in most of my lineups, even with all these other great spots.
Yeah, looking through the my lineups again, I did notice I did in fact have a decent amount of Ivy after all. I had like 28% of him.
Yeah, I like that. I think it's a good move. All right, New Orleans and Orlando sheets. What do you got, if anything, here?
Not much, but just to throw out there, there was something I got a little bit of. Was it New Orleans? Yeah, I'm getting, I don't know, 24% of Brandon Boston Jr.
Yeah.
I guess he must project pretty well points per dollar for me to get there. Aside from that, the usual nonsense looking for whether Zion plays or not, I suppose. And, it's freaking week 2. It looks like the NBA season. It feels like it. Everybody's out every game. It's like crazy.
I know. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Anyway, that's what I got. Not much.
Yeah. I'm not especially interested in this game. I understand the Brandon Boston thing. Go ahead. I like the other cheap plays better than I like him. There's definitely a chance that he makes me look foolish, but even if he does, I think some of these other guys at 4K are going to get 30. So if you play Kentavious Caldwell-Pope when there's this much stuff out there, I think you're actually a bad player. I'll go that far. And he's going to pop for you guys. He's going to show up in your builds. He's 3,800. He's too cheap, obviously. You play him on normal slates that you're starved for value. I've already gone through 7 value plays. We've been through 3 games. I just think he's a bad play. If he gets there, he gets there. He's going to play a bunch of minutes, and he's going to often put up 10 to 15 fantasy points and stand in the corner. He's a great defensive player, but he's not going to – this is not – in my opinion, you should not be playing KCP. I could care less if he has 40 fantasy points tonight. That's the wrong thing to do in my mind. Anyway.
I built a whole bunch of lineups today, and I have 4% of him. So
okay, good. I like that. I'm okay with 4%, just not 40.
Yeah.
All right, Brooklyn and Boston.
Right. So Boston, I don't know. I keep getting like quite a bit of this guy. I have to see how he's actually been doing for me, but I keep getting a bunch of this Quetta, this Neemias Quetta guy. And he's up in price now, though. I was playing him at 3,200 or whatever where 22 points is fine and 27 points is obviously more than fine. But 4,500 is not quite as good, but yet still, I'm still getting about 30% of that. So I figured I would throw that in. What else am I getting early at least? It does not look like much. Like 10% Derek White, 10% Peyton Pritchard. Overall, just not a lot of this game.
Yeah, like, okay, I've gone back and forth about the Keita thing this morning because he's going to be really, really popular. His projection is absurd. It's probably too high, to be honest with you. I don't think he's ever scored as many fantasy points as he's being projected for. Like literally ever. Maybe
What's he projecting for 30?
Yeah, for 32, 31.9.
Yeah, he has not gotten that yet, I don't think.
I think he had one game, like maybe was it last year? I think that he might have gotten there with nobody playing. Now, the reason he's popping is because there's no Luke Cornett, and they have not shown the willingness to go to Xavier Tillman. If you want a large field tournament play, look, it's a Hail Mary play. It's the wrong slate probably, but I mean Tillman's not even projected for a number. Is that for real? With no, there must be a mistake because in my opinion, like there he goes. Like that's the large field play. You hope Keita gets in foul trouble, or you hope it's a blowout, which most likely it's going to be a blowout, and Tillman plays as many minutes as Keita. I don't think Keita is necessarily locked in for 30 minutes here. Let's play Tillman as a weird pivot, only in large field, only like 5% or something like that. But no one's going to play him. He's 3K flat, and he's got a ceiling if the game goes the way that it should go. That's all I have to say. If you want to play Drew Holiday, I would prefer Peyton Pritchard over Holiday because I do think this game will blow out. And I would prefer Derek White over any of the spend-ups, other spend-ups, but that's it for me.
Yeah, what do I have? I have him with like 10 fantasy points, something like that.
Tillman, I'm telling you, that's the creative play, but it's probably a little too creative for this big a slate.
Okay.
Golden State and Cleveland.
Golden State, Cleveland. Could be something. I don't know. I don't know what this is. It's a review and it could be a preview. But I'm not really not getting anything from this game. I'm looking here down my list of guys, and what do I get? Okay, 20% Darius Garland. That's some exposure. So 20% of him, and that's my current runs. That's all I'm getting. I don't know if anybody really. That's very interesting to anybody. Let me just see who's actually looks good. Curry 8,600. I guess fair enough, but I don't know. I guess this game sort of it's a watch and not wager on.
Great real life basketball game. If we had more time, I would gush just about how impressed I am with the Warriors. I really am amazed how they rebuilt it on the fly like this, and it's really incredibly impressive. But that's what happens. You get 9 really good players and put Steph in there with them. That's what happens, and they're all really good players being utilized to their best capability. And Cleveland is doing basically the exact same thing, a different type of team, but just 2 great teams. I'm very impressed with both of them. I have no interest in playing in the DFS. All right. Speaking of other teams that I think are going to be contenders this year, Phoenix and Dallas in a game that I'm just going to jump you on this one because I have no interest in anything but Luka, and even Luka I don't have as a massive priority on this slate. Although I think he's totally a good play. Actually, you know what? I think Luka's probably a better play than his ownership. I definitely would want to be over the 15% he's being projected to be on. That's all I have.
Which is the team that's good this year, Dallas or Phoenix?
Phoenix, they're both good, I think.
Oh, okay.
I think they're both very good.
Yeah, I'm only getting right now like 7% of Luka. I'm not really getting too much of this, although I have to just say this for the bit. Okay. I was always told that when John Moran is out to play Tyus Jones. So Tyus Jones, even though he doesn't play for Memphis anymore, I figured I would just throw this in there.
He put up a big game the other day, I think.
He did not. Well, he had a big minutes game. He had like 33 minutes. Didn't do anything.
He didn't put up a big game. Okay.
And then, actually, 3 games before that against the defensive juggernaut of Portland, he had a good game. So no, but I really don't have much in this game. If anything, maybe like a sliver of Luka. That's it.
I would say that Luka might be a little bit under projected. He averaged 68 fantasy points per game this year. I expect him to end up in that range just because he hasn't early on in the season. Doesn't mean we should treat it like it's not. And because it's going to be a close game, it should be a close game anyway. I think we up Luka. I would up him to like 65, and I think he's going to show up a lot more than he is right now. Sorry. All right, next game. What is it? New York. All right, Cheeks, talk about your Knicks.
I think you just play Cat every day until he gets hurt or whatever. He's going to play him 800 minutes, right? And
he's been amazing.
He's never had any shame, right? I mean, like, and I don't know, it looks good to me. So I like Cat here. I'm not getting to Giannis or pretty much anybody on Milwaukee. I'd love to see one of these days Jalen Brunson have a good game. Actually, he's had a couple, I guess, but he plays. They all play so much.
Yeah, they play so many minutes.
What about Josh Hart? He never looks like he's going to get there, and then he just does. I mean,
and somehow he ends up with 45 or something. You know,
he had like 40 in the last game. I think he literally had like 7 at the half.
Yeah, and it's just the minutes thing. That's the only reason I hate saying like I'm not that interested in this game. I do like Cat. I think Towns is a terrific play, and he's been amazing. And as typical Towns fashion, it's like the better he goes, the worse the team tends to go. I don't know why he's always been like that in his career, but it has been the truth. And I'm not blaming him. I'm just saying that it's strange. It's always seemed to happen. If the only interest I have in this game is if Giannis is out. I do think that these Knicks, you should try and be over the field and then most nights just because of the minutes. I think Anunoby is probably my second favorite play, and then maybe Hart just because the pricing for Anunoby is so low. But it's really just you're paying for the minutes, and that's fair. And Giannis is going to get no ownership as a high-price play. And my bold take of the day is that Milwaukee wins this game if Giannis plays. And honestly, I don't know if he's. I mean, if they're going to win the game, he's probably going to have a big game, I would guess. So that's the only other one. Then the only other play, I guess, is Andre Jackson. I think we can find better stuff on this biggest slate. Last night with a 3-gamer, it was a must-do. He did put up 25 fantasy points in his first start. I think that's totally fine if you want to go back to him, but I don't see him as a must by any means. All right. Now we get to talk about your Kaishan George.
Yeah. Kaishan George looks pretty good. We could also talk about your Caleb Carrington, whatever his name is.
Yeah, Bubs Carrington.
And you know the mandatory Jordan Poole exposure every day. But the real news obviously is the Memphis side, right? So what's interesting is that you mentioned before, I think his last game, that something about like they don't want him dunking or something like that. There was something you said about Ja, or somebody said something.
He only tried like one dunk through the first 6 games this year, and he usually tries to dunk like 10 times a game. And then he literally, that same day was the day he made the two of the most insane plays you'll ever see with the.
That's what I was gonna say. I mean, like. I mean, between that and like the Saquon Barkley, I don't even know what to think of, like what the human beings can do nowadays. You know, it's like
right, it's crazy,
ridiculous. And I had neither of those guys. Anyway, so with him out, all these guys are going to pop, and my top 2 highest owned guys are guys that do not directly take his position. You know, which is interesting. So, my current ownership has about 65% Jaren Jackson Jr. And 45% Santi Aldama. Mm-hmm. And then it takes me a while. Then actually 23% LaRavia. And then I finally get down to like 15% Pippen. Maybe I should just be playing more Pippen. I don't know. What do you think of all these Memphis guys? Who are your favorites?
So they are not marrying themselves to Edey the way that I think a lot of people thought they would because of all their size. They just have a lot of size that they can play, and they have a lot of good size. Like you have Brandon Clark, Jaren Jackson, Santi Aldama. No need to really play a true center. However, my favorite play in this game is Zach Edey.
Here we go.
I think there's a 50-point. I mean, he just put up 50 the other day. This is literally the nut matchup, and he's playing against a guy who wouldn't be able to start for most college teams. And look, and by the way, okay, maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit on that one. Sarr has been better than I think anybody thought he would be right off the bat, but this is his number 2 pick in the draft. But at the same time, if Zach Edey was playing against these guys in college, nobody could guard him his whole time in college. This is a 19-year-old kid. You're going to tell me he could actually guard him, and especially with Ja gone, why wouldn't you run the offense through him a little bit? So I think Zach Edey is an incredibly good tournament play. Now, does that mean I would say lock him in? No, I would say like play 20% of them when he's going to be. Play Zach Edey and Isaiah Stewart as your center and utility spots, And I think that's a huge way to get. You're going to be totally different by playing Edie anyway. I just think he's got like massive upside here. So I love Edie, and then followed by Pippen, then Aldama, then Jackson for me. But all four are very interesting. And on the Washington side, I wanted to be ahead on these guys. They're probably getting to a price point where I don't think you need to on this kind of a slate. I still wouldn't be surprised if all of them got there or any of them, but I'm just not finding anything I love enough. The only other thing, the flip side of it for Edie is Jonas Valanciunas is on the other side, who they're going to bring off the bench. That is a guy who maybe could work Edie a little bit. I'm not going to play Valanciunas, but I think Edie is a really sharp, at least gambling tournament play. Maybe just large field, but that's what I would do. Anyway. All right, Houston and OKC.
Yeah, Houston, OKC. I'm really have to scroll down to get much of anybody. I'm getting like a small amount of Tari Eason, but aside from that, I'm kind of off of this game. Do you like anything here?
No, it would be Isaiah Joe, if anything, for me, and just hope he gets hot. But I don't see any reason we have to do anything here. It is interesting that Isaiah Joe is now starting, and he's putting up over 20 every game, and he's 3,500, but he's still projected at 19. Okay. What if he was projected at 21 or 22? Would he be 20% owned? Probably. So Isaiah Joe, I guess, as a pivot off of some of the other value we talked about. That's pretty much it. Always worth a gamble on the Houston guys, but I just don't think you need to on this slate, especially since I'm playing Zach Edey. All right. Miami and Denver.
Yeah, I mean, Jokic is obviously a good play, but I'm not really getting to him today. I'm getting very, very little of these top guys in general. But oddly, I'm getting just a ton of Bam. Like I'm getting like 70% Turner and then also like 35% like Bam also. You know what I mean? Like it's
So that's interesting. They're trying to flip your builds because people are going to spend down at center in a lot of cases. So I think that's why they're coming up with that.
But it's going to be multiple centers in like every lineup because I'm also getting like as I mentioned, if I'm getting you don't need to be a math genius. I'm getting 32% Keta and 70% Turner and 35% Bam. That's a lot of double center builds.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at some Jokic in the utility. I'm getting some of that. So it's a big bunch of double centers for me. And I'm not getting anybody else from Denver today. Let me look at Murray. I mean, he's out again. We'd have to look at that. But right now, I don't have anything else in Denver.
Yeah, the DraftKings should be ashamed that they didn't price Westbrook up sooner. Like as I told you, his projection should be in the 40s without Murray, and he played 2 games without Murray, and he scored 40 and 47. So I feel validated on that one. And by the way, they won those games, and they looked the best they've looked all years. So little shot there for my guy Westbrook. I understand it for Bam. Sure, its price is tempting. I have no reason to try to play anybody here. Personally, Jokic would be the one I would want to play, and even in a tough matchup, it's weird that Bam's defense hasn't been very good this year, which is just strange to say out loud because Bam is the kind of guy who should be able to have some success against Jokic. But if Murray's out, it's not just Westbrook it's not like Westbrook we have to look at. It's Jokic we have to look at. Jokic has to do everything so much more without Murray in there. So if we get that news before lock, great. I don't expect we're going to. All right, last one. Portland and Minnesota.
And this last one, I really just don't have anything. Do you like anything in this game?
Kind of wish I would have played last night because my take was that Anthony Edwards was going to have a huge game. He was my guy, and he just went crazy. I don't see why he shouldn't do it again. Mike Conley's probably not going to play, and you're not going to get that news. So I would actually say to go out of your way and maybe play DiVincenzo. I don't know if they're going to play Conley on a back-to-back with Portland at home when they're already, what are they, 15, 12?
And how about Conley with the smash, huh?
I know that's the part I would have gotten wrong though. So I'm happy.
Yeah, me too. I got that wrong. Actually, I had him. Actually, I just didn't have the other guys.
Oh, really? It's usually not. I mean, it was the right kind of slate because it was a 3-gamer. I could never brought myself to do that on a 10-gamer or 11-gamer.
26 minutes, 36 fantasy points. Who is this guy?
I know it's like a total flip. He's usually 36 minutes, 12 fantasy points.
Well, it's a guy with 11 assists out of nowhere. I mean,
yeah, Conley's a great player. He's just not a superstar. Right. Anyway, but I don't really have much from this one. It's going to be a fun slate. The more we talk through it, I kind of want to play it because see some angles you could take. but probably not going to be playing huge volume for NBA tonight. But I'm looking forward to it. All right, Cheats, you want to get out of here, and then we'll do football in a little bit.
Yep, we're aiming for 2. You know, it's out of my